The latest NFL draft rumors you're about to watch originally aired on the Chat Sports YouTube channel. We'll be live for the NFL draft on there. But we're going to keep pumping out videos for you guys, 2 to 3 per day across all different teams, topics. We got you guys covered, all things NFL draft right here. So make sure you're subscribed. Tom Downey here for NFL Daily by Chat Sports, taking a look at the latest NFL draft rumors with less than a month to go before the first pick is made. And we begin with the first overall pick. What will the Carolina Panthers do here? We all know they're going to take a quarterback. You're wrong if you think otherwise, frankly. The Panthers have done a lot of research on the top prospects. They've gone to the pro days. They've had dinners with most of them. But ESPN is not, or at least some ESPN reports somewhere around the NFL are not buying that Carolina didn't know who they were going to take number 1 overall, even if we, the general public, are still a little bit in the dark because that's the way the NFL wants it. They don't want people to know who the number 1 overall pick is because it adds to the drama of night 1. Here's what Jeremy Fowler / Dan Granziano, is a dual article who wrote it, no specifications, so I gave Fowler credit today. I'll do Dan next time. He says, it wrote, the Panthers would have you believe they moved from number 9 to number 1 in the draft without knowing which quarterback they're taking. Some people don't believe that. And a very unscientific poll of sources I spoke at the meetings with tell me most people believe they're taking OSU's CJ Stroud. In whatever order you want to rank them, it's going to be one of these 4 guys who go number 1 overall. Bryce Young out of Alabama, CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, Will Levis out of Kentucky, or Anthony Richardson out of Florida. There's really not much room for interpretation in terms of who will end up being the pick there. It's going to be one of those guys when it's all said and done. It's just more of a question of who ends up being. All of them have their own different strengths and weaknesses and concerns and red flags and promises and upsides and all those things that go along with being a potential number 1 overall pick. It's not a set in stone situation in terms of there's not a Trevor Lawrence. There's not a even an Andrew Luck. There's not that locked and loaded number 1 prospect. There are concerns with all of them, and there's upside with all of them, although for me, it would definitely not be Will Levis. Taking Will Levis number 1, I'm going to make a huge mistake. I wouldn't take Richardson either. I know there's a lot of upside there, but it scares me. I think most people would take either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, and it's up to the Panthers to figure out, okay, which one do we prefer more? We're actually going to talk more about Richardson here in a little bit, but who will be the number 1 overall pick in this year's NFL draft? 4 viable answers, but vote for me at the pinned comment of today's video. BY for Bryce Young, CJ for CJ Stroud, AR for Anthony Richardson, or WL for Will Levis. If the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage. Go vote at the pinned comment. Let's talk more about Anthony Richardson. He had his pro day recently at Florida, which I think pro days are very overrated. I think we put for quarterbacks, put way too much emphasis on, like, the guy should look good in shorts thrown against air. If he doesn't, I actually have more concerns because that's as easy as it will be. He showed exactly what we saw on film. Massive arm strength, incredible athleticism, and there are some just general accuracy concerns. ESPN reports that he might not get past number 5 in round 1. I do think Indy is maybe the most likely destination there. Here's again what Jeremy Fowler had to say. When I asked some high-level scouts who were at the pro day how Richardson looked, they said it's looking like he might not fall past Seattle at number 5, or at least that feels like that's his floor right now, or at least that's the conversation among teams. Will he be a top 3 to 5 pick? If you talk about the players who have the potential to be the best guy in the class, Richardson's on that list. The upside is there. The mobility, the arm strength, and I get why some in draft media are saying he's not as big of a project maybe he's been made out to be, because he does do some of the more protection stuff, looking off safeties. He does some of that, but it's certainly not consistent. The accuracy, even if we adjust for the Florida receivers being bad, is still not there. He does have to make mechanical changes, and he still has a long way to go up here in terms of doing the things that make an NFL quarterback great when it comes to pre- and post-snap processing. You will never convince me that a guy who completed under 54% of his passes in a very heavy play-action offense is not wrong, does not need improvement. He absolutely does. He is still a project. Now, is he he's not as big a project as Malik Willis is. I'll say that. I got a higher grade on Richardson. But he does still need growth and development, and there is risk involved. The upside is tantalizing, but we can't just pretend he's not a project. I will never get on board with sub 55% completion guy is actually very pro. It's just not. I refuse to believe it. Now, I do think he ends up going top 5. I think Indy makes a lot of sense there. What do you think? Will Richardson go in the top 5 of the NFL draft? Y for yes or N for no? Now, the NFL draft hats are on sale for all 32 NFL teams. So whatever team you're a fan of, now is the time to get yours. Get it ordered so it hopefully arrives closer to draft night there. I love the Bears one. The Bears one looks great. Most of them are the stone color. The Bears have the navy, and that one looks fantastic. But get yours today. Again, all 32 NFL teams. Chatsports.com/NFL draft hats. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. Check them out. They haven't always looked great, but I think they do this year. Let's go back to talking about Jalen Carter, who we've talked about before here on the channel. There are conflicting reports out there as to whether or not Carter is still on the Raiders draft board. Vic Tafur said that he was not an option. They took him off. Josh McDaniels then said, no, we're still doing our research. No decision has been made there. This could be a semantics of like, yeah, we're still doing our research, but he's probably not going to be on our board. We just haven't officially done it. Who knows? Former NFL GM Randy Mueller said multiple teams have pulled Carter off their board, and the massive uncertainty remains, and I have no idea where Jalen Carter is going. It's also this interesting, is the word I'll use, quote from Dan Campbell on Jalen Carter. He says, we talked to a teammate of his the other day, and man, he told us some things we didn't know that nobody probably would have known. It was like, oh, that's interesting. And then a reporter asked him, good or bad? Interesting. And Dan Campbell just said, it's interesting. That is intentional by Dan Campbell. That is just throwing some, that's literally smoke grenade out there. That's all it is. Now, is it a good smoke grenade, a bad smoke grenade? I don't know. I think that's part of the point of the whole comment. Jalen Carter's a talented football player. We know that he's very good. We know he has immense upside, ability, potential, production, etc. All of those things remain true. But the character is a question mark. And, you know, of course, I'm sure we all know he had was involved in the unfortunate car accident that killed a teammate and a staffer at Georgia. He was allegedly racing alongside of them. There's also just general maturity concerns that had previously existed around Jalen Carter. And I think the incident makes teams go, okay, we got to dig more. And sometimes the more you dig, maybe you found out more stuff. I don't know. No one knows. I want to make that clear before we start talking about like getting over the top and writing kids off or whatnot there. I have no idea what's going to happen. That is going to be one of the ultimate draft night mysteries that will only be answered on draft night. But you can still predict who ends up taking Jalen Carter. Sound off for me in the comments section. I think the Lions would maximize him, but is that who Dan Campbell wants? Does he have the high character that Campbell seems to prefer? I'm not sure, but I think Campbell would have him the straight and narrow. I think Lions are a great fit for him. Where do you think he goes? Sound off in the comments section. The Arizona Cardinals, could they trade down? I think Arizona would love to trade down. They would love a team to get excited about Richardson, say, we don't want the Colts to get him. We're going to jump up and take him at number 3. Arizona would move down. And some whispers out there, they are not as high on Will Anderson as maybe you would normally expect for the team drafting number 3 overall, which would mean Anderson could slide maybe as far down to Seattle. Would be a dream outcome, I think, for the Seahawks. The Bears, once again, have also been linked in more hypothetical trade rumors. Some local reports saying the Bears have interest in moving down. Now, the draft's kind of weird, especially when he gets outside of Anderson and I feel about Jalen Carter. I have tier breaks in there in terms of like there isn't an obvious clear-cut next top 10 player for me. Some people have it as Tyree Wilson. There are plenty of corners I think actually fit that mold, but like the front 7 guys kind of fall off. O-line's decent, but receiving core is not great. The guy you get at 9 wouldn't be that different from the guy you get at 15, unless Carter slides, you love him or something like that. So if the Bears don't love their options, always trade down. Get those assets. See what Chicago do and Arizona does as well come draft night.